When the hold was filled, even rats stopped going down there. 1 in 5 in the hold did not survive to reach the shore. The night is torn apart by screams. A village on the coast of West Africa is burning, not a map or a number, but smoke that burns the throat. In the darkness, the glint of metal and leather, ropes, unfamiliar voices. The girl's wrists are squeezed, thin as reeds. On her skin is a fresh iron mark, a horseshoe-shaped bracket with a small sign, 3 lines and a circle. The merchant's brand. A number. People are gathered under a baobab tree, a dense crowd of bodies shivering in the night heat. Men are separated. The women are separated. The children are shadows between 2 rows. When an old man falls, they lift him up and drag him along. When a young mother falls, they shine a torch on her, weigh her with their eyes, look at her teeth, and look away, she'll spoil on the way, they whisper, as if talking about fruit at the market. The numbers weigh heavily, like a chain, more than 12 million torn from this land, up to 2 million never even reached the shore. But now it's not about statistics. Here there is night, smoke, and a girl whose elbows are tied behind her back. She hears a dog barking nearby, fish splashing in the river, strangers' footsteps measuring her path. They are lined up in a column. The iron around their necks rings hollowly. Someone prays. Someone walks silently. To the water, says the one who has already been there. There are ships. The word ship here smells of blood and tar. The village is still crackling, brown tongues of fire lick the roofs. The light reveals more than she would like, traces on the ground, barefoot prints, petals of crushed flowers at the threshold. The girl looks for her mother. She only manages to see a silhouette in the smoke, and that silhouette is also already in chains. They lead her down a narrow path where cowrie shells were once collected. Today, they collect people. One of the armed men points to her neck, a ring. 3 lines and a circle flash against the moon. Your home is there now, he nods toward the rustle of the ocean. Reckoning. A foreign language cuts into the night with short syllables. It sounds as if they are counting not people, but places in the hold, who will stand, who will sit, who will not survive. On the ground is a rusty chain, thinner than her wrist. Someone brought it to her. Someone did not take it off. Amidst the shouts and orders, there is a pause, a silence that cuts sharper than sound. In it, you can hear distant drumming from the village, which does not yet know about the raid, and the hoarse laughter of the guard. It is a low note of alarm that the body will remember for years. She touches the torn fabric on her chest and holds her breath so as not to cry. Be quiet and walk, whispers a woman's voice from the side. The girl nods, though no one can see it in the darkness. At dawn, the column will be assembled. Everyone has an iron mark on their neck. On their backs are lines that will learn to be silent. They will say that it is 3 days to the shore. But the road loses time like a sieve loses water. The column sets off. The girl looks back one last time. Where her name used to be, there is smoke. Where her belongings used to be, there is a stone. The brand on her neck is cold. She does not yet know that she will see this mark again, in the glare of a stranger's office, in the glass of a museum display case, in a ledger where lives are reduced to numbers. The morning does not begin with the sun. The morning begins with the whistle of a whip. The column is aligned like a chain in the literal sense, iron rings connect people from neck to neck. They can only walk in sync, otherwise, the iron cuts into the body of the person next to them. They walk. Dozens, hundreds of kilometers, from villages to the ocean, from home to emptiness. 1 in 6 will not make it. The bodies of those who fall are left on the side of the road, without land and without farewell. The ground is so often littered with bones that European travelers wrote about roads with white stones. But they are not stones. The girl sees her mother stumbling nearby. She tries to get up and falls again. The chain pulls her daughter forward. She screams, but her voice is lost among hundreds of others. The guard stops next to her mother. After a short command, she is left behind, without help or farewell. For the daughter, this is a moment of loss that cannot even be mourned. Imagine walking alongside someone your whole life, and in a moment they are gone, and you are not even allowed to turn around. Every extra movement is a whip to the back. The guards say it's 3 days to the coast. In reality, time is measured differently: who will fall today, who tomorrow, how many times the rocks will cut their feet, how many times someone will ask for water and hear laughter in response. The girl staggers from thirst. The smell of her mother, herbal, familiar, is now mixed with dust and sweat. Walls rise ahead. The stone gate blackens against the setting sun, like a door that swallows people forever. And only for a moment, through a break in the clouds, does she see a strip of clear sky, the same as in her childhood above the field. The light is only enough for a few steps. Door of no return. Those who pass through will not return. Never. The end of the march does not mean the end of suffering. It is only the beginning. The Elmina gate closes behind her. The stone is cold, but further on it is even colder. Where the sea crashes against the shore, ships stand. High sides, black with tar. They seem like giants, breathing in and out with hundreds of foreign bodies. Before boarding, people were kept in underground casemates, cramped, dark, waiting rooms. There they waited for days and weeks, almost without air or light, before being led through a narrow passage to the pier. These chambers were located directly under a temple or chapel, where prayers were heard above and screams below. At the pier, everyone stops in front of strangers' eyes: the captain, the ship's doctor, the merchant. They conducted humiliating examinations, checking teeth, hands, weight. In the reports, everything looked like an assessment of goods, low quality or suitable. The girl is put on display for a humiliating inspection. Then she is branded with a tool that merchants used to mark property. This mark remained forever. Her body is now marked, like a bag of sugar. Imagine a space 16 inches high. That's how much space was left between the boards in the hold. In 1788, the famous Brooks diagram appeared, an official model of dense packing. In it, bodies are laid out in cells, like the geometry of profit. A person could not turn over or sit up. They could only lie down, chained to their neighbors. Hundreds of bodies, stacked tightly like logs. Merchants counted not only the living, but also the dead. Because there was insurance. In 1781, the ship Zone threw 132 living people overboard, and the owners demanded compensation from the insurance company. In the court papers, life disappeared with one word: loss. A girl is pushed into the darkness. The click of the lock on her neck sounds short, but it closes more than just a door. It closes a fate. The hold. The darkness is so thick that even a torch would not pierce it. But there is no torch here. There is only air, thicker than tar. Bodies lie in rows, several hundred of them. They are chained together so that one cannot move without touching another. The floor is slippery, a mixture of sweat and blood. Mold is already growing on the wood. In the heat, the hold becomes even more cramped. There is no sky or sun to be seen. There is only the sound of waves crashing against the sides and the clanking of chains as the ship rocks. And then there are the screams. When people refused to eat, special metal devices were used to force feed them. Porridge or water was forcibly given to them so that the cargo would not lose weight. Others were forced to move around on deck, the so-called dancing the slaves, forced exercise to prevent the body from deteriorating. The mortality rate on these voyages reached 15 to 20%. 1 in 5 did not reach the other shore. In the captain's logs, it looked like dry numbers: arrivals, 310, losses, 62. For those lying in the dark, it sounded different: another one isn't breathing. The girl is chained between two strangers. The chain cuts into her ankle. In the darkness, she feels with her fingers for a piece of fabric, the remains of her clothes. And she whispers a quiet lullaby. The one her mother used to sing. Sometimes a thin strip of light seeps through a crack in the boards. It trembles like the reflection of the sun on water and disappears just as quickly. The song sounds like a shadow. She hides it inside herself because she knows that if the guards hear it, they will beat her. But the song is the only thing she still has. Think about it, if you take away a person's land, home, and name, what is left? Their voice. And even that they try to take away. In the darkness, only the clanking of chains and quiet singing that no one was supposed to hear can be heard. The air on the deck is fresh. But not everyone has the right to breathe it. Prisoners are taken out in small groups to get some fresh air. On deck, they are forced to move, jump, and kick their legs, dancing the slaves. They call it exercise, but in reality, it is control, to prevent the body from deteriorating before it is sold. That's when the thought arises, now or never. Imagine this moment, hundreds of people, brought together, deprived of everything, but still alive. In their hands, nothing but chains. In their hearts, despair stronger than fear. Someone screams first. The chain becomes a weapon. Several guards fall. For a moment, it seems that the ship is rocking not from the waves, but from the screams. In the 18th century, more than 250 uprisings on slave ships were documented. This means that every voyage carried a hidden fire. The captains knew the risk was high. They kept their muskets at the ready, sometimes they even stretched metal nets over the deck so that no one could jump into the sea or break through to the top. The girl sees the man next to her rushing forward. His body still has strength. He throws himself into the sea, a wave covers his body. For a moment, it seems that freedom is possible. But a shot from the deck stops this attempt. For some, the sea was a way home. For others, it was the only way out. And even that way out was taken away. The riots were quickly put down. But the fear of the sea remained stronger than the fear of the whip. In the holds and on deck, people were treated as cargo. Women were sometimes taken aside, closer to the officers' cabins. This meant even tighter control, although outwardly it seemed that there were fewer restrictions. Euphemisms appeared in documents, customary use, entertainment for the crew. Behind these words lay systematic exploitation. Sometimes women were made pregnant right in the holds. The child became an additional means of control, the mother would not run away with a baby in her arms. Colonial law applied the rule of partus sequitur vent rem, the status of the child follows the status of the mother. For merchants, this meant that each pregnancy was a new asset in future reports. In Barbados and Jamaica, women were valued more highly precisely because of this reproductive capacity. Their bodies were seen as an investment. The girl in the hold feels that her body has changed. Her breasts ache, nausea comes in waves. She hasn't said it out loud yet, but she already knows, there is life growing in her womb. Unplanned and unwanted. And for someone else, just a line in the accounts. There were no names on the invoices. Only marks, woman, girl, boy. A person was reduced to a number. The sea beneath the ship lives its own life. Sometimes it seems that it knows, every voyage brings it new prey. When someone was too sick, the guards did not wait for a natural end. They were killed so as not to spoil the cargo, as the logs said. The body was lifted onto the deck and thrown overboard. In the logs, it sounded cold, cargo reduction. And that was it. A dull thud against the water. Then a second. Then a third. In a few weeks of sailing, there could be dozens of such thuds. Eyewitnesses wrote, sharks followed the routes of slave ships for months, knowing the way better than any map. They waited because they knew, a new wave would bring a body. The girl flinches at every sound of a fall. She knows that one day it could be her or the child she is carrying under her heart. In the darkness, she presses her hands to her stomach, as if she could protect it. Hundreds of sunken ships carrying slaves still lie at the bottom of the Atlantic. These are underwater graves with shackles and chains that sometimes still clink in the water when the wind picks up. The ocean became a graveyard, and the waves carried the bodies to places beyond memory. The shore finally appears. But it does not mean salvation. The shore is a new scene of trade. The ship docks. The prisoners are led out one by one. First, they are washed in sea water, then rubbed with oil to make their skin shine. This is not care, it is preparation of the goods. People are displayed in such a way that they appear more alive than they really are. The contrast is stark: yesterday, the hold, the stench, the darkness. Today, the square, the sun, the crowd of white buyers. They examine teeth and muscles as if at a cattle market. Scramble, at such a sale, the crowd of buyers rushed at the people at the same time, grabbing whoever they could. Another format was an auction, where the price rose gradually during a thorough inspection. Records remain in Barbados. The value of a woman was calculated not only by her age and health, but also by her reproductive capacity. Children were cheaper, men were valued as labor, and women as double commodities. The girl stands among the others. Her body still remembers the darkness of the sea, but now she is forced to stand straight, under the gaze of strangers. Buyers carefully examine each one, checking teeth, muscles, body condition. It looked like a cattle market where people became lots. She is given a new name. A foreign one. It does not sound like her language. And along with the name, the owner's mark remains on her skin. A name is what makes a person unique. Here, names were erased. In their place, numbers, brands, and foreign words were left. A person was turned into a commodity. From now on, she was not a person, but a commodity. The past does not disappear, even when they try to erase it. It remains in the ground, in bones, in fragments unearthed by archaeologists. In the 18th century, the ship Henrietta Marie sank off the coast of Florida. It lay in the silence of the water for a long time until divers found rusty chains, iron fragments, and lead weights. These are the very items that bound the bodies of hundreds of slaves. The Henrietta Marie, circa 1700, is material evidence that this story is not a metaphor, but a specific ship and specific people. Imagine looking at this metal after 300 years. It has preserved not only rust, but also traces of touch, wrists that tried to break free. The iron is silent, but you can feel the cry locked inside it. Today, scientists are finding other evidence. Genetic research shows that the DNA of modern Caribbean communities is directly linked to regions of West Africa. These bodies hold two stories, one written with whips and chains, the other in songs and dances that survived despite everything. The girl who was sold at the market sang a lullaby. The same one she whispered in the hold. She passed it on to her daughter. Her daughter passed it on to hers. And now, centuries later, the melody can be heard in the folk songs of Jamaica. The words have changed, the language is different, but the rhythm is the same. Think about it, a song can cross oceans and centuries, but a name cannot. Only numbers remained on the invoices. But music became a secret memory that neither the whip nor the brand could erase. Today, the museum has the same shackles from the beginning of this story, 3 lines and a circle, the merchant's mark. They lie behind glass, but the silence around them is not empty. It is filled with voices that have survived in songs. A dark hold. Rusty shackles lie on rotten wood. There is no one else here, but the silence still speaks. Millions died at every stage, from attacks and marches to the ocean, during the crossing and in the years of acclimatization. During the crossing alone, about 2 million died. Not only in the holds, but also on the shores of Africa, in the waters of the Atlantic, on the plantations of America. Their names have been erased. Only numbers, shipping documents, and records of cargo losses remain. In the ship's logs, their lives were reduced to a column, cargo loss, 42. Behind this line were 42 names that will never be recorded. The girl from our story also fell silent. Her voice merged with others in a quiet song that crossed the ocean. The lullaby that sounded in the hold now lives on in the songs of Jamaica, Brazil, and New Orleans. The memory was passed on not through documents, but through melody and rhythm that no one could suppress. Think about it, empires were built not only on gold, but also on millions of lives buried in the earth and water. This was the hidden foundation of the colonial world. And yet the bones remember. They become archaeology, genetics, silence that breaks through into the present. Today, this memory lives on in museums, the waterfront in Cape Coast, the ruins of Elmina, the Henrietta Marie exhibition in Florida. Stone, iron, and water have become places where silence speaks louder than words. Listen carefully. Because the silence of the holds is not emptiness. It is a cry that echoes through the centuries. It still sounds. And if you are ready to hear it, it speaks.